So the Sixth Doctor got a second season, and little did anyone know, well, I'm sure some probably had suspicions, it would be his last, which is unfortunate through a series of problems. Very, very few, if any, was the fault of Colin Baker. A lot of this was not in any of his control, and but he, in a lot of ways, suffered the worst of it. So I think there was a bit of a break in between there, but they decided to do this, story arc containing all the episodes of this very short season, because it was getting shorter and smaller. The money wasn't there and this sort of thing. So there was a lot of writing on the wall that there was all kinds of troubles. And, they were trying to shuffle the deck and shake things up a bit, which you can understand why, and to breathe new life into it and to move into something else and that sort of thing. And my guess is that that's what this idea for the trial of a Time Lord. He'd already been tried by the Time Lords for pretty much the same crime they're accusing him of here. But of course there was a little twist in all of this. So you had these individual stories, but they're framed by this trial where they watch these adventures the Doctor had, and it's introduced as evidence of his irresponsible behavior that's dangerous and whatnot. And so the first one was the mysterious planet. Oh, why is it mysterious? Well, they call it Ravalox, but spoiler, it's actually the Earth in a distant future after some shenanigans had moved it. And ideas of this just get repeated over and over again, not just in Doctor Who, but in all kinds of sci-fi adventures and whatnot. So, there it is. It's not that big of a deal, really. But anyway, so they're watching this on the screen, and you go into it, and it's the Doctor and Perry show up. And you know which one's in the past and which one's in the future, because in the future, the Doctor, of course, is in the courtroom, but he's also wearing a red tie, whereas in the past, he was wearing the blue tie. So there you go. You're all caught up. And once again, here we have indications that the Doctor's memories are not quite up to snuff here, as they summoned him to this Time Lord space station, to which for the time the miniatures and what they did an okay job with that. And that's all that set up that they'll be showcasing throughout this season. And the other thing was they finally gave him his own version of the Doctor Who theme song. They didn't really give him an opening sequence. I talked about this before, where I thought that was something they did for every last season of a current Doctor to phase into the next one coming. And so, because Pertwee's opening changed to the Tom Baker Vortex, and then Vortex Tom Baker changed to this outer space stuff for Peter Davison. But now, I guess they broke the bank on that one, and they just kept that for a while, and they just sort of tweaked it here for when Colin came along. But the new song wasn't all that great, and then it kind of gives you a foreshadowing of what's to come, because boy, did that really go to hell for Sylvester. So they probably should have just stuck with the Peter Davison version or go back to the original, but anyway, no. So they did this new version of the song. And, what are you going to do? So they're on this planet, and there's two factions here. There's this, backward tribal people living in the wilderness. Meanwhile, underground, there's this remnants of humanity dominated by the Immortal, who is, at the end of it all, just a robot. So this is another one of these things where a computer was programmed to care for people, but it ends up becoming this, evil god or dictator, or however you want to put it. And people were expelled to the devastated Earth, but it's not so devastated anymore, so it wasn't much of an expulsion, but people on the ground didn't know how to survive up there. That sort of thing is going on. And that's what they did. And then you had these, I don't know, space pirates or mercenaries or whatever. And they were after this thing called the black light generator. Who knew that a black light could do so much damage? But apparently it was so devastating that it could even threaten the entire universe. But the robot, Drathro, he calls himself, was dependent on it for his life. But it was on the verge of collapse and ruin, and it was trying to find a way to repair it here, back and forth. The doctor is recruited to do it. Of course, he could have, but by the time they get to it, it needed to be shut down. Otherwise, it was going to blow and all that. So the robot was interesting looking. With this almost cow horns, I guess. And some of it, they're going for this sort of hitchhikers type, humor, and here and there, and it kind of works. But ultimately, it's not that great of a show. There's worse shows than this one, but there really just wasn't a whole lot to it. And then you had to keep going back to the trial, which, again, I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't know. Maybe that would have worked all in one episode where there was incidences of something and it wasn't so much when you didn't have a whole lot going on here. Just, but I don't know. I understood that they were trying to restart mystery for the Doctor and Outcast and what, but it ends up resulting in one of the ginormous plot holes that should have been revisited. Certainly, New Who should have taken that seriously and dealt with it, but the time has already passed in their lines of doctors, and they didn't do it. They even dropped the name, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll know as we go into the episodes of this trial. But there's opportunity here, but it just wasn't dealt with. I don't know. And then they continued on with this idea of new mysteries of the Doctor and stuff. That was supposed to be the whole point of the Seventh Doctor and all that. But then, of course, they ran out of time. But they didn't revisit this sort of stuff. So it was a bit of a mess, But anyway, there's some humorous moments here with the robot and stuff, and some levels it kind of works, But Perry's pretty. That's nice, and Colin tries, but you can only work with what they give him, and that's about it. He, of course, wins and stuff, and everything's fine. But then, of course, you got to have a cliffhanger ending, even though it's the end of this particular adventure, because the trial goes on, and the Doctor's in trouble. So that's how they end it for the next episode, going into Mind Warp, which will be the next one. Well, so again, it's just sort of, okay. It's not something I think, God, did they really drop the ball here? They kind of really didn't, but at the same time, it's just pretty forgettable, Except for the robot. The robot looked cool in his own clumsy way. It's kind of funny that ended up being the absolute ruler of what's left of Earth and all that, but whatever. So there you go. That's the mysterious planet. Wasn't really all that mysterious, but it was a planet, so you got that going for it. And it was the first chapter in Trial of a Time Lord, for charges he'd already been tried for, as far as I can tell. Being irresponsible and a rogue Time Lord and all that sort of stuff. Not supposed to interfere, but he did all the time, that kind of thing. But he saved their hash, so they kind of just forgave him for it, in exchange for a few favors here and there, so that he could interfere and they wouldn't. See how that deal works. But so I guess there's no double jeopardy rule in Gallifrey. I don't know. Oh well. Anyway, there you go. Mysterious planet.